Hmm? Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our bilingual reading here at the Leading Library in Milwaukee. I'm Tom Hogan, the coordinator of the Milwaukie Poetry Series, and I want to say we're absolutely delighted to have you here tonight. We know that there are other things that you could be doing, and you're choosing to come and hear bilingual poetry read and share. So thank you for being here. I also want to thank anybody who has logged on to the live stream. We are live streaming tonight, so welcome. This will be recorded and it will be available on the Leading Library YouTube channel in about 10 days. We think that's about how that usually goes. So again, thank you very much for being here. How we're going to proceed tonight is that in a minute after my first comments, I'm going to introduce Dr. Booty, who is the co-host tonight. So this is a event co-sponsored with the Almutanabi Street Starts Here Coalition. And he is, and then our video is going to tell you a little bit more about the beginning of the Almutanabi Street Starts Here Coalition. Then after some welcome from Dr. Booty, we'll have a video. So I'll introduce the video. So it's about 10 minutes, and it's a welcome and a message from the international coordinator. Then we'll have two featured readers, and they will read some poems in English, and then they'll be read in Arabic. So our first featured reader will be Linda Apple, followed by Sue Reese, and then by Dr. Booty. And after that, we will have the open mic. So I want to call your attention to the sign-up sheet for the open mic. If you would like to read, please sign up. We will do the first round with 2 poems each, and we'll see where we are. And at the end of that, if there are more people who want to read, and then we can certainly do that. So please be aware of that. There are refreshments. If you want some refreshments, please help yourself. I want to call your attention to your telephonic devices. So if you would silence them, that would be wonderful, so they don't go off. And actually, this is always a reminder. I'm asking you to do that, and I want to do that myself. I want to make some thanks too. So firstly, thanks to the City of Milwaukee. They have been very supportive of the Milwaukee Poetry Series from the beginning. So we're in our 18th season. So we're very, very, very grateful. We're also very grateful to the Leading Library. So we are now here. You may notice, if you haven't, that we now have art on the walls. So this is a project of the Milwaukie Arts Committee, and they are going to be doing rotating exhibits of local artists. So it's just really delightful to have that color and the local artists on the wall. Thank you to the Milwaukee Poetry Series Committee. So we do have a committee that works on this, and as you know, we don't have something happen that unless you have a group of people working on it. So I want to thank Kristen Roeder, who is in the back, and David Filer, and my lovely wife Jane for being the people who are working on this tonight from the committee. And finally, you see our tech folks here. Josh Reynolds in the back, Rebecca here in the front. So they are from the Willamette Falls Media Studios, and they are doing the technical work for us tonight. Let's give them a big hand. They are magicians, actually. So thank you very much for being here. I would like to introduce my co-host for some welcome, Dr. Bahar Booty, and we have been doing this for, we have been doing this for 13 years. This is our 13th season of doing a co-sponsored bilingual reading here with the Almutanabi Street Starts Here Coalition.
Thank you very much. And thank you all for being here, and I have to confess, actually, thank you for Tom for describing me as the co-host. I did nothing. Okay, I told Tom I worked in mental health back in Hillsborough, and I'm very consumed. But thank you very much, guys. You have been keep doing this, and we're doing this every year here in Milwaukee. So really heartens me as an Iraqi American. I want to. Do you want me to say something now or after the? Because I want. Well, it's about Mutanabbi, why it's Mutanabbi Street explosion, the suicide bomber attack on that 5th of March in 2007. So on Mutanabbi Street, and I think I've given you this information in the past, but I'll just repeat myself today. It was named after the great Abbasi poet from the Abbasid period, Iraqi poet, Arab Iraqi, who lived in the 10th century. And it was a safe place at this time. The Al-Mutanabbi Street, and that's why they call this street in Baghdad Al-Mutanabbi Street after him, because it's the center of culture in Baghdad. It has the bookstores, cafes, and most important, what's the Al-Shabandar cafe. That one was attacked. And that was the center of cultural radiation where intellectuals met. So I'm stealing just moments from Boo because he said his statement in 2014. In London and Britain, they were starting that Al-Mutanabbi Street Starts Here event, which went worldwide. And at that time, he said they had a real sense of security in that street because they were surrounded by literature and books. It was illogical, but it was a reality. The prevailing idea was, why would anyone think of attacking a street like this? That's what he said. And now, you know, Al-Mutanabbi Street was an iconic cultural feature in Baghdad. The attack itself caused like 30 deaths, 100 casualties, but the significance of the symbolism of that attack on our culture at that time, the attack of terrorism on humanity, and that's what Boo related to and started celebrating, let's say. Just to let you know, I mean, by the end of 2008, the victims of violence in Iraq that started in particularly the 2003, because we had our periods before that, 2003. So between 2003 and 2008, there was like 98,000 victims of death. I personally, escaped the threat of assassination. But then we had another share when Daesh, ISIS, attacked Mosul, occupied Mosul from 2014 to 2017. There were 10,000. And unfortunately, these attacks of terrorists in different forms of terrorist organizations, let's say, are still going on. But then I'll read a poem, hopefully, if I have time, about the uprising of the Iraqi young liberals in 2019. So thank you for giving me these moments, and nice to meet you all. Thank you for being here.
Let's get Dr. Mooney involved. So we're going to hear next from the international coordinator, who is Bo Beausoleil from San Francisco. And we've been trying to get him to do something, a welcome, a message, read a poem, and he wanted to do it this way, so we're going to play this short interview that we have with him. It's about 10 minutes. And I said, hello, everybody. I'm Tom Hogan, the coordinator of the Milwaukie Poetry Series, and I am honored today to be here with Bo Beausoleil, who is the founder and international coordinator of the Al-Mutanabbi Street Starts Here Coalition. Very happy, Bo, that you're with us today to give us a welcome message and to participate in our event at the Milwaukie Poetry Series on March 5th at 6 o'clock in the evening at the Leading Library. So I want to start and ask you, how did you get into this in the first place? What brought you to be involved with the Al-Mutanabbi Street Starts Here Coalition?
Well, I always like to say that, like a lot of people who are organizers, I began when first I waited for someone else to do it. And then when no one was doing anything, then I stepped forward. And I speak of a very specific event, and that event was on March 5th, 2007, during the American occupation of Iraq. There was a car bombing on a street called Al-Mutanabi Street, which is the street of the booksellers in Baghdad. For over 100 years, that's been the home to booksellers, small cafes, printers. It was a literary street. Some people call it the third lung of Baghdad. It was a place of free expression and the free expression of ideas. And we all know that when an area is established in that way, invariably it becomes a threat to those who have power or want power. And in this case, someone sent a car bomber to Al-Mutanabi Street and exploded that car, killed more than 60 some odd people, wounded more than 100, decimated the street. But the next day, poets and writers came back to the street, stood on the wrecks of cars that had been burned out, and read. And they read in the same way and in the same spirit that your reading is going on in Milwaukie at the library. That we will not be defeated, that you cannot erase culture. Those are very important things. Well, when I read about that bombing in Baghdad, I waited here in San Francisco, which is very much an activist city. I waited for someone to put together a memorial reading. And I waited for a week, I waited for 10 days, and I could see that this event, which was so striking to me as both a poet and a bookseller at the time, that it was going to slip into the rabbit hole of history. So I began contacting people. And that's how I became an organizer for this. We put out a call for letterpress printers. We gathered more than 40 some odd. We did a reading at the main library in San Francisco. And then after that was over and we had another exhibit, people were ready to go home. People felt like we had made a statement about this attack on a street of culture. But at that same moment, I realized I did not want this to end. I wanted to keep this project moving. I've always admired projects that had duration, like the mothers in the plaza in Argentina who kept showing up week after week with signs asking, where are our children? Where are the disappeared? Or the people in Occupy Wall Street who just stayed there. So the idea of a one-off event didn't appeal to me at all. I wanted this to continue. And I began working with a series of coordinators, both here and in the UK. And I had the idea that if we added other art forms besides the broadsides, we could keep the project going by exhibiting. And I also, at that point, began to encourage people everywhere in the world to host a reading for Al-Mutanabi Street on or about March 5th every year. This year there'll be a reading in Italy for Al-Mutanabi Street, and there's going to be a reading on the East Coast near Washington, D.C. For it, and you're the third reading for that. So that's really how I got involved. We began to add prints, we began to add, we have a photography project. So each time we now have artists and writers from more than 20 different countries. We published an anthology, Al-Mutanabbi Street Starts Here. And we've continued. The last, we did a series of exhibits 2 years ago at various colleges throughout the United States showing work from the photography project. So we're still here. Our archive is held by Columbia University in New York. And I'm especially moved by readings like your own, readings that continue year after year. I think that is the heart and soul of this project. So that's kind of a short answer
Well,
of how I became involved and why the project has continued for so long. So
well, thank you for sharing that. And your work has been inspiring. So you being there and the work that you've been doing has been inspiring to us to continue on. That's what you're doing. And that's what you're talking about doing, is continuing on, because the issues are important.
they are.
So do you have direction you'd like to see it go in before you read the poem?
Pardon me?
Do you have a direction that you'd like to see Al-Mutanabbi Street Start Coalition move in? Plans for the future?
Well, into the future, I mean, part of this project is exactly what you referred to, and that is to inspire other people. I'd like to see that happen. I'd like to see other people continue these readings, other people, do research on the archive of work that we've created. I'm not actively every single day working on the project. I always refer to we've never gotten a grant for this project. I always say that we are the dirt underneath the grassroots of other projects. So I've never thought that the project had a goal. And the closest thing to a goal is that it continues to exist in one form or another. So I hope we inspire someone among your readers tonight to do something. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
I hope so too. So you're going to share a poem with us.
Yes. I have a new book that is called War News 2. They are a series of daily poems that I wrote about the tragedy in Gaza and what the Palestinian people have endured and where that has filtered into my own life as well. So I want to read just a short poem from that. War News 2. Each poem has the same title, War News. They're only differentiated by the date that they were written. So this was written on January 19th, 2024. I heard the child answer the reporter's question of what she wanted. No, let me start again. War News. I heard the child answer the reporter's question of what she hoped for in the new year. She answered through the interpreter that she hoped she would not die. I cannot tie the blood knot of words in this war any tighter than that. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Bo.
You're welcome.
It's been a pleasure, as always, spending some time with you. thank you for participating in this with us and for the message out to the people at our event. It's a message that keeps going out. So thank you
Yes,
again for what you're doing and your work.
thank you. It's my honor to be amongst you.
Thank you for turning the lights back up. Any question at this point? They're fine low? Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody. So, as I said, we are going to have 2 featured readers. Well, we have 3 featured readers. So I would like to introduce our first featured reader, who is Linda Knowlton Apple. She considers herself an Oregonian through and through, although she was raised in Alabama and Massachusetts and has lived all around the United States. She attended Barnard College in New York City, graduated from Northland College in Ashland, Wisconsin, and has a master's degree in library science from the University of California at Berkeley. After working for many years in scientific and industrial libraries, she retired to concentrate on reading poetry. Her work has appeared in Voice Catcher, Willowa Journal, and others. She published 2 chapbooks, and a third will be out very soon. Mother of 2 and a grandmother, she's lived on the Willamette River for 40 years. And I can give you just a little bit of an update. Earlier this evening, this says she has a third out very soon. Well, she held up a book, and she has her new book, and just got it. How we're going to proceed is she's going to read a poem in English. Dr. Booty is going to read it in Arabic. She's going to read a poem in English. Dr. Booty is going to read it in Arabic. She's going to read 3 or 4 more poems, all in English. Let's welcome Linda Knowlton Apple.
Thank you, Tom. I am so glad to see you all, everybody here tonight. I also want to say how very honored I feel to be asked to participate in this. When Tom contacted me about reading, what am I going to choose? What have I got that I would to be translated? Wow. And I immediately thought, because of the Arabic connection, of ghazals, which seem to be a very popular form for English language poets nowadays. I have not written ghazals, but it did get me thinking about what form we think of when we think of English poetry, and I thought of sonnets. I have written a few sonnets. So I gave 2 sonnets that I presume have been translated. I haven't seen or heard the translation yet. I would like to tell you, I'm fascinated with this idea of translation. One of my early experiences when I started seriously writing, when I took classes in writing poetry, was one of my teachers gave us poems in foreign languages. The language was not identified to us, and we were told nothing whatever about what the poem was about. We were just asked to read the poem, study it, and write something based on that poem. And over the week or so that it took to do that assignment, reading that poem, and I still don't know what language it was. I think it was probably a Nordic language. The sounds of it developed a picture in my mind, and I wrote a very credible poem based on that. So the possibilities of translation with poetry are just amazing. So I'm eager to see what happens here. This first poem I'm going to read is entitled Fade to Black. Beyond the drapes, dark branches twine like tatted lace, sewn black on a white night sky. It's late, but I toss, turn, seek needed sleep. Battered and harried by insomnia, I anticipate and fear tomorrow's pain. When sleep's delay brings little rest and too few dreams to sew and mend the rents and tears of one hard day, I know the next will torture aching bones. Colors kaleidoscope behind my eyes, embroidering complex patterns, a shifting map retracing the glow of stars in high, bright skies, until I'm lulled onto my grandmother's lap. Her smooth black dress, her shawl of soft white lace, enfold and rock me into sleep's embrace. Thank you.
Where is the translation?
Excuse me?
Oh, you want me to translate it here on the spot?
I don't have it.
Okay. Well, I apologize. I think the idea is that I have to interpret it here, but actually it's poetry. I cannot do that. I apologize. I thought you had an Arabic translation.
Okay.
I cannot do this consequent
Okay.
interpretation. Masara, do you want to do it for the next one?
Do,
Consequent interpretation.
Oh, no, I cannot do that.
It's poetry. You know, it's not all right. Sorry.
should I just read it, repeat it on an endless loop until a new poem emerges?
There's like professional interpreters who are specialized in poetry as well and literature who actually read, poems in English and try to translate them into Arabic and vice versa too.
Yes.
Arabic is really hard to translate into English as well because of the context
Yeah.
and everything. So,
Yeah.
so instant interpretation is almost impossible with poems. And I mean, maybe it could happen, but it won't get to the depth of the poem that you just, beautiful poem you just read for us.
That's what amazes me about the very prospect of translating. There was a project this fall here locally. Kim Stafford has a poem, I think it's pretty well known. It's a plea for peace, actually. And there was a reading I went to this fall where that poem was read in English and then read in multiple other languages. Many, many people had been translating it. There were Asian languages, European. Was there an African? It was amazing, and.
I can try now if you give me time. It's a challenge. I'll try. If you want to.
Well, what?
This one?
Yeah, that was the one I just read.
So I'll do it in Arabic. And you will not understand, so I can't do anything. So I'll just sit. الانتهاء إلى سواد خلف ما بعد التناقص الظلام وتفرعه الذي يتحول إلى توأم، يمشي السواد بين اللون الأبيض للسماء. الوقت متأخر ولكني أتقلب، أتحرك، أحاول أن أنام، ولكن مضروبة ومعاقب بعدم النوم. أنا أتوقع وأتخوف مما سيحصل غدا من آلام الغد. عندما يتأخر النوم سيجلب لي قليلا من الراحة وقليلا من الأحلام التي يمكن أن تزعجني وتربطني مع الدموع ليوم متعب. أنا أعرف أن اليوم التالي سيحمل آلاما تعذبني في عظامي. I don't know how to translate kaleidoscope. Anyway, الألوان الكاليدوسكوب خلف عيني تتقلب في طريقة معقدة وتنتقل في خارطة تنسحب إلى السماء، إلى النجوم في السماء وإشعاع النجوم في السماء، حتى أنا أتمكن من أن أنجذب إلى حضن جدتي. قدرتها هي لديها لباس أسود ناعم، وأيضا الشال من حرير أبيض، ممكن أن ألفه وممكن أن يقودني إلى النوم، يحتضنني إلى النوم. I tried.
Well, now what about the second one I was supposed to read? Is that, do we just, okay. This is also a sonnet entitled Today the Clouds. It was written for a friend, Joan, sometime after her death. Today the clouds have lifted. The river dances, sparkling in the sun. Through thickets of leaves, light darts and glances, quick and uncaught as swallows, before resting on a sequined branch. I grieved until you danced into my heart to lift it with laughing song, as you have always done. Late summer weaves its golden light around your ghost, lingering still beside me, a cushion for my descent into a future holding nothing but memory. Last night an owl awoke me in the blackest hour, calling, "Who? Who?" I heard no answer spoken then, but from the woods there came a gentle wind, warm breath of your lilting song recalled again. Would try that one.
That's poetry. The first one was like deeper, with a deeper poetic image, and this one is deep, but the image is clearer to me,
Clear,
so
yes.
I can
Yeah.
translate easier. اليوم ارتفعت الغيوم، النهر يرقص ويتلامع تحت الشمس. خلال الأوراق النباتات الثخينة الضوء يتخللها بسهام ورؤى سريعة جدا، ولا يمكن التقاطها عندما تبتلعها قبل أن تسترخي على فرع من الأشجار، من فروع الأشجار. أنا حزنت حتى قمت أنت بالرقص في قلبي لترتفع معنوياتي بالضحك بأغنية ضاحكة كما كنت تفعل دائما. في الصيف المتأخر يأتي يحوك الضوء الذهبي حول روحك ويلف حولي على مقعد عندما أنزل إلى إمساك بالمستقبل للذكريات فقط. الليلة الفائتة أبوم أيقظني في أصعب الساعات، في أكثرها ظلاما، وهو يقول. So the owl was saying in Arabic, ooh, ooh, ooh. And ولم أسمع أي استجابة في ذلك الوقت، لكن من خلال الأشجار جاءت ريح خفيفة، نفس دافئ لأغنيتك التي أسمعها مجددا لأن تعش. Thank you.
Again, let me say, I feel so honored to be part of this. How much time do you want to keep it? Okay. All right. Those poems were written quite some time ago. Tom stole my thunder. Here's my brand new book. It's entitled Moon Marked, and it is a compilation of poems written by my cousin and I. She is also a Portland poet. I hope you'll get a chance to hear her sometime. I will read one poem from this book. I bring you up to date on my poetic history. This is entitled Moon Marked, also the title for the book itself. Moon marked. We're moon marked, oh my sisters, in sunless days of late winter, at the first day of a new month, in the slow, ashen hours of waning nights. We are moon marked, dear daughters, by blood, that internal clock ticking away and spilling forth each month, while we busy ourselves in the kitchen, in the bedroom, in the marketplace. We are marked by the moon, my beloved mothers, as we follow its trail across the snow until spring brings on the planting season, and we nurture and birth and at last reap rich harvest. We are moon marked, every one of us, in our smiles and in our frowns, with belly laughs or righteous anger, as we stride forth and when we glide in the circle of the dance. And we are moon marked when in ghostly light we cuddle before a fire, warm and alone, in deep consideration of our solitude. I guess I have one poem that has been nagging at me. I have hesitated to read it because I still feel like it's a draft, but it seemed appropriate to me for this particular occasion. This poem is entitled Hamid and Frank, and it's based on the history of immigration in my husband's family, my family now, and the history of immigration across our country, really. My husband was first generation. His parents came separately to the United States. My own family is lost in history, but this is, of course, the story of everyone in this country.
So where does your husband's parents, where did they come from?
They were from what was then Hungary, is now Romania. And this was written after visiting a cousin of my husband's who lived in Detroit. Hamid and Frank. The clatter of cups in the crowded cafe momentarily quiets as Hamid grins and secretly lifts Frank's slender cane out of the booth. Oblivious, Frank continues telling a story to waitresses, busboys, and a community of friends who gather daily here. Their complicit smiles follow Hamid as he hides the cane and clears the table. Patrons resume coffee, cakes, and conversations, waiting for the ritual to unfold, laughing with the ease of long familiarity. Frank is full of stories today, reflecting on the events of a life playing out its final years. His immigrant parents worked hard to earn their rewards: a house, education for their children, their American success, paid for in part by Frank. As a teenage GI, thrust into the Battle of the Bulge, he lost a leg and spent months as a POW. Now he considers he was paying dues for a long, good life, a fair bargain, all in all. Watching and listening while he works, Hamid recalls his own father, thin and tall like Frank, likewise a man of many stories. Those memories help him through his days in this new land, laboring alone towards its unfilled promise. He thinks, next year I'll bring my son, my eldest. We'll work, earn, and send money home. And he'll go to school. He'll meet Frank, my friends, all these Americans. Frank fumbles now for his messing stick. Again, a pause, as the restaurant patrons attend this daily rite that he and Hamid reenact. The realization that the cane is missing, its retrieval, the presentation and acceptance. How do you do that without me noticing, Frank asks. From within the circle of laughter, Hamid offers, I'll come to your house, bring food, cook you dinner. And Frank grins as he leaves the diner once more. In his car, the radio blares, a talk show litany. Aliens, immigrants, illegal, terrorize, deport. Oblivious to the screed, Frank recalls Hamid's gentle prank and chuckles once again. Thank you.
Yes, let's give Linda a hand. Thank you so much. Yeah, well, and congratulations again on the book. Our second featured reader tonight is Sue Reese. And Sue is a member of the English faculty at Portland State University and teaches freshman inquiry at University Studies and continues to get carried away sharing and reading poetry in all her classes. No matter the topic, there is always an appropriate poem, often a Stafford poem. Sue's husband passed away in July of 2017. She now lives with her dog and cat and is fortunate to enjoy regular visits with her daughter and her husband, her 16-and-a-half and 4-and-a-half-year-old grandsons, and a 1-and-a-half-year-old granddaughter. She has rediscovered the limitless joy of play. She says, it's an honor to be invited here today with you. So she's going to be reading her poems from her phone. So would you join me in welcoming our next featured reader, Sue Reese? Come on.
I say thank you to Tom for continuing this event. I have found it always really moving and inspiring. I'm at Portland State. It's interesting. You know, I'm probably won't continue there too much longer, hopefully by choice, although things are changing rapidly in the world right now, and PSU has not been necessarily looked upon favorably by certain people, but it has put us in a group with Columbia University and UC Berkeley, so we're quite honored because we've never been, put in a group with them before. But anyway, sorry, just had to say. But I love Portland State, and I love listening to you read, even if I don't know what you're saying, because, I'm trusting you that you're saying, what the poem said. But one thing I love about being at Portland State is that it's so diverse, and English is always in the same building as world languages and literature, and so you can get on the elevator and hear every language being spoken by native speakers and people who are trying to be, and it's just so lovely. It's the way the world should be. So I have two of my own poems, and then I'm going to read a couple poems by other people, because, yeah. And the first one is called Coexistence. The coyote is almost invisible in the dried leaves next to the downed tree, until the leaves appear to move, become a scrawny four-legged figure, clothed in grays, browns, coat hanging loose, perhaps shedding, pelt on sticks, made from starvation, as it slouches toward the nearby forest, lacking both pronoun and story. He may be a former leader of his pack, alpha, a word absent from his demeanor. Or do all coyotes come through suburban winter in this condition? She may be a mother undernourished for the baby she's carrying, or from the litter she's recently produced, painfully alone, hungry, homeless either way, trying to survive another day. I know there are others. I hear them calling to one another in the night, chilling my spirit, prompting the cat to come running and launch herself rapidly onto my bed, my deaf dog oblivious to the danger of horror so very near. Both would be considered a meal should they meet. My fear of such an outcome keeps her in at night, him on a leash. Their freedom is circumscribed by my old woman alone without them unease, doing all it can to alter the natural order of things in my favor. I tell myself I hate them, these wild creatures with whom I share land. I consider I might hit them with my car. If I could borrow a gun and shoot them, I won't do either. We are too much alike, just trying to get through another day. Sorry, all of a sudden I've developed a raspy voice. We were here. If you listen inside yourself, you can almost hear the cut of trumpets slicing through stillness outside Jericho. Rocks giving way over rocks, the falling, the dying spirits leaving bleeding bodies, wives and sweethearts keening those once delicious man bodies they'll never again devour. Or feel the trickle of drops turning to downpour, a meteorological record. Recall 40 straight days of rain, seasonal affective disorder run amok among desert people, accustomed to sandals, sunshine, bodies lean in light garments drenched to the bone. Or smell it out in the stable among earthy, warm-coated beasts, that homeless couple, the wife pregnant, due any time, no money, no place to sleep, all gratitude for just a mattress of hay, safer than being on the street, on the road somewhere, home in a manger. We don't write it all down so history won't repeat itself. Obviously, that doesn't work. We write it down to share our story, to mark the miracle that we were here, lived, loved, and died. The miracle is that in spite of the fact we collectively never seem to learn, we keep on going. Oh, it worked. Okay. So I want to read two poems by the poet Dorian Laux. Dorian was one of my teachers in the MFA program. We were about the same age. I call her and Joe mom and dad anyway. But just a wonderful human. And I'm reading from a series of poems I put together for my class in freshman inquiry, because we have a poem a day all year in class that we read, and then they have to read about it, or interpret it, write about it, not read about it. And I'm finding that it's a good thing we're doing it. And this poem is called Life is Beautiful, and I'm kind of using it because I'm also using Walt Whitman's This Compost, and this seems like another way of that, okay? So life is beautiful and remote and useful, if only to itself. Take the fly. Angel of the ordinary house, laying its bright eggs on the trash, pressing each jewel out delicately along a crust of buttered toast. Bagged, the whole mess travels to the nearest dump where other flies have gathered, singing over stained newsprint and reeking fruit. Wrapped on air, they execute an intricate ballet above the clashing pirouettes of heavy machinery. They hum with life. While inside rumpled sacks, pure white maggots writhe and spiral from a rip, a tear-shaped hole that drools and drips a living froth onto the buried earth. The warm days pass, gulls scree and pitch, rats manage the crevices. Feral cats abandon their litters for a morsel of torn fur. Stranded dogs roam open fields, sniff the fragrant edges. A tossed lacework of bones and shredded flesh, and the maggots tumble at the center, ripening husks membrane thin, embryos darkening and shifting within, wings curled and wet, the open air pungent and ready to receive them in their fecund iridescence. And so, of our homely hosts, a bag of jewels is born again into the world. Come, lost children of the sun-drenched kitchen, your parents soundly sleep along the windowsill, content, wings at rest. Nestled in among the worn glass, everywhere the good life oozes from the useless waste we make when we create. Our streets teem with human young, rafts of pigeons streaming over the squirrel-burdened trees. If there is a purpose, maybe there are too many of us to see it, though we can from a distance. Hear the dull thrum of generations' industry. Feel its fleshly wheel churn the fire inside us, pushing the world forward toward its ragged edge, rushing like a swollen river into multitude and rank disorder. Such abundance. We are gorged and gorging and gorgeous. I wish I wrote that one. And then a short one by Dorian that I love because I think it says so much about, well, people, or how people could be, but they aren't in the poem. It's called Cello, and it's not about that either. But anyway, when a dead tree falls in a forest, it often falls into the arms of a living tree. The dead, thus embraced, rasp in wind, slowly carving a niche in the living branch, shearing away the rough outer flesh, revealing the pinkish, yellowish, feverish inner bark. For years, the dead tree rubs its fallen body against the living, building its dead music, making its raw mark, wearing the tough bough down, moaning in wind, the deep rosin bow sound of the living shouldering the dead. And I always give them a prompt at the end of the poems, and I wanted to share the one at the end of this poem. I added cello because it's beautiful. I have known those moaning trees supporting others. What is she saying about humanity? Look at the great tragedies we sometimes face, like the LA fires. Look at the outpouring of good that immediately appears as people reach out to help and support other people. Stephen Jay Gould, in A Time of Gifts, writes that for every negative act, and he was writing after 9/11, there are 10,000 acts of kindness that have to counter that, and there always are. And I'm going to end with a short poem by Seamus Heaney, the Irish Nobel laureate, who is my, well, he just holds a major place in my life. His work does. Okay, getting there. Postscript. And sometime make the time to drive out west into County Clare along the flaggy shore in September or October, when the wind and the light are working off each other so that the ocean on one side is wild with foam and glitter, and inland among stones the surface of a great slate gray lake is lit by the earth lightning of a flock of swans, their feathers ruffed and ruffling, white on white, their fully grown headstrong looking heads tucked or cresting or busy underwater. Useless to think you'll park and capture it more thoroughly. You are neither here nor there, a hurry through which known and strange things pass, as big, soft buffetings come at the car sideways and catch the heart off guard and blow it open. Thank you.
Let's give Sue another hand. Thank you. So our next featured reader is Dr. Booty. And do you have some poems that you want to read? No, let's do yours, and then we'll go to the open mic. Woohoo! Dr. Bahar Booty.
But it's not my poem.
Well, yeah.
Well, yes, but
however you would like to do it.
Before reading this poem for this Iraqi poet, let me read something that I did write in 2016. Resiliency, really? Ocean waves keep coming eternally to the shore. Whales are jumping up in the horizon. You might or might not see them. To see or not to see the whales, that is the game. She said, "Wish you luck seeing the whales." Obsession, you are committed to watch for the whales. Hope, who cares? Life is short. The ocean is the eternal harmony. Enjoy. A nomad lost in the no man's land. Is it awaiting for Godot or playing Dr. Bernard against the plague? Accept, hope, accept, enjoy. You will always be caught in the fence. There will always be pain in the struggle. If you are a free spirit, love your life, love the fence, love your freedom, love. Thank you. That's my writing. Okay, this Iraqi poet, Karim Abdullah. Actually, he started his professional life as a mental health nurse in the hospital in Baghdad, the only hospital for the chronic mental illness. And when I was director of the hospital in 1999, I assigned him to supervise the vocational rehabilitation unit because I noticed his creativity. And after 2003, he started publishing, and he became like a well-known poet and writer. He was born in Baghdad in 1962. He's an author of, that was an early book, Baghdad in Her New Dress. And his name has appeared in many Arabic literary magazines, and he won a prize. And he has many poetry collections and novels in Arabic and poetry that was translated to many languages. I had the honor of writing a forward opening for one of his novels. He says in this, and I'll start with the Arabic and then I'll read the English. And by the way, this is about the uprising that happened in 2019 by the young liberal people in Baghdad, and it caused, of course, bloodshed. قنابل الدخان تبلسم جراحات الزمن. عيوني التي أمطرت عشقا للوطن جففي حرقة اشتياقها إليك، فلقد رمدتها قنابل الدخان اللعينة وخرافة السلاطين الغرباء في نفق التحرير. دونت اسمك وسط الجماهير قنديلا يضيء عتمة ما خلفه الخراب، وتمسحين كل الرماد من على قناع الوقاية، تطردين أشباحهم القبيحة فأتنفسك خضيرة ومسج، تحت ملابس الثوار الزاحفين نحو الشمس تعتقين بالصبر أحلامهم الفتية، تنمو متبخترة تنشف الدموع من شوارعنا التي لا تشيخ مضاءة كوجوه خوات ثنوة، السومريات يحملن بذور العشق جنينا يلقف غربان الليل وما يأفكون. Smoke bombs heal the wounds of time. My eyes that trained love for the homeland dried up the burning of their longing for you, for the damned smoke bombs and the myth of the strange sultans have blackened them in the Liberation Tunnel. The Liberation Tunnel is a tunnel on the main street in Baghdad, in the center of Baghdad, and Tahrir. I'm sorry, I translated literally. Tahrir, which means liberation, is the center of Baghdad, center square in Baghdad. I wrote your name among the masses, a lantern that lights up the darkness left by the destruction. You wipe away all the ashes, and in their protective masks. You drive away their ugly ghosts, so I breathe you khdaira and misk. Khdaira and misk are types of perfumes used by the women in the southern Iraq. Under the clothes of the revolutionaries crawling towards the sun, you grow with patience their young dreams that grow strutting, drying the tears from our streets that do not age, lit up like the faces of the sisters of Thanwa. The Sumerian women carry the seeds of love, a fetus that devours the crows of night and what they fabricate. And by the way, sisters of Thanwa, Thanwa is the mother of one of the martyrs of the October uprising in Baghdad, in the Liberation Square. Okay, thank you.
Ed Sheeran.
I had a question. Arabic, although I do not understand it, seems so musical. I mean, the rising and falling of the sounds. I would think that musicality is part of the poetry. Is it?
What did you call it? Musicality?
Music. It sounds like music. It rises and falls. Yes.
Because let's say the traditional, it has to go with a certain phonemes or tones there are specific tones that go with the poem, like it has to end with one type of pronunciation letter. The modern poetry does not follow that rule, but also it has to have kind of its music, as you said. So, because it's related to the language. It's not just the expression, it's also related to the language itself. But I hope that explains it. Thank you.
So there are some words like you would say a certain sound, but depending on the music, of whether you say it in a high voice or a low voice, change the meaning of that sound.
Oh yeah, of course. You have seen Arabic, so there are the letters and then there are signs that like E, such kind of thing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ooh. Yes. So I have the open mic list, and on the list I have David Filer, and me, and Masara. Yep. And is there anyone else that isn't on the list that would like to be on the list? Teal and Sharon. Wonderful. So, David, are you ready? Go ahead. So let's, we have David Filer, then me, Masara, and Teal, and then Sharon. So let's welcome our first poet on the open mic, David Filer. Thank you, David.
Well, I didn't know this was going to be doing this, but I did bring a few copies of my book, The Fear of Love, and I'll read one poem titled Obad, and it's dedicated to now my late wife, Marlene Anderson, and reads like this. We wake early, dawn still gray outside the curtains, alarm even before our neighbors' noisy dogs. We've done this wrong to ourselves, plain to catch. You'll be halfway around the world before you stop. So these fleet moments seem worth savoring, saving, not as if they might be our last. No, don't think it. Rather just the few that we can share now. But now you are gone, and I'm watching the daylight's gradual ebb, swallows nipping midges from the cool air. All that half a world from you, but still in the moment you woke and left. I hope you've saved it too, packed it to Sabaki village, and so we'll wake together, however distant we may be, dawn not compelling us to anything but love, while our homeward journeys wait. A couple of references in there. My wife, now late wife, started working with people in called a project called the Amani Project, working in Kenya, Africa, doing various things, and it was amazing that she could do that so far away and difficult in such a different place, but she did. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David, for sharing that. I'm going to share two poems that I found by David Krieger, who is president of the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation. And one of the things that I found with this, as well as preparing for other events, is that you read a lot of poetry, or at least I do, in terms of looking for what I think I want to share. And that's one of the benefits of this. These are two that struck me. This is To an Iraqi Child for Ali Ismail Abbas. So you wanted to be a doctor. It was not likely that your dreams would have come true anyway. We didn't intend for our bombs to find you. They are smart bombs, but they didn't know that you wanted to be a doctor. They didn't know anything about you, and they know nothing of love. They cannot be trusted with dreams. They only know how to find their targets and explode in fulfillment. They are gray metal casings with violent hearts, doing only what they were created to do. It isn't their fault that they found you. To an Iraqi Child. And the second one is titled Zaid's Misfortune. Zaid had the misfortune of being born in Iraq, a country rich with oil. Iraq had the misfortune of being invaded by a country greedy for oil. The country greedy for oil had the misfortune of being led by a man too eager for war. Zaid's misfortune multiplied when his parents were shot down in front of their medical clinic. Being 11 and haunted by the deaths of one's parents is a great misfortune. In Zaid's misfortune, a distant silence engulfs the sounds of war. I'm going to read that last one again. In Zaid's misfortune, a distant silence engulfs the sounds of war. So, they seem to me two individual stories, of which there are many, many thousands of tragedy. So thank you for being able to read my poems. Let's welcome now Masara.
Good evening, everyone. Masara, it was Ransom here with you. I just wanted to start. So my name is Masara. I'm Iraqi. I came here to the U.S. as a refugee, in 2008. And I came here as a youth, and like when I was 16, with my family, and I learned English here. Fast forward, when we came here, our case manager was Dr. Bahar, and so through the resettlement agency, which was Lutheran Community Services. And I went on and, went to high school and then did my undergrad in psychology at Lewis and Clark, and then worked at Lutheran Community Services as a clinical mental health case manager, working with refugees and Iraqi community and other refugee communities in the Portland metro area. And through that, I learned about the poetry readings, and of course became part of the Al-Mutanabi Street poetry readings through Uncle Bahar. We call him Uncle Bahar because he's an elder in our community, and so I remember my first poetry reading actually was with my now husband. At that time, we were dating, and that was like almost 10 years ago. So just, time flies by, and now we have Ferris, our son, and we're expecting another one coming on the way. But I have always enjoyed the poetry readings, and thank you so much, Uncle Bahar, for inviting me to this one. Today, and I agree with you, like I don't write poems myself, but when you said like events like this kind of reminds you, like I need to read poems to prepare, and so I read so many poems, preparing for tonight, I love poems, and I always, read poems as, they come, and poets, love their stories and, their backgrounds. And so today, actually, or yesterday, like this week, I learned about a poet who her name is Dunya Mikhail. And she is an Iraqi-American poet. And so she was born in Iraq in 1965. She worked as a literary editor for the Baghdad Observer, facing increasing threats and harassment from Iraqi authorities for her writings. She fled Iraq in the late 1990s and studied near Eastern Studies, Wayne State University. In 2001, she was awarded the UN Human Rights Award for Freedom of Writing. Dunya was actually published 4 collections of poetry in Arabic, and also were translated into different languages. One of them is English, but she speaks and writes in Arabic, Aramaic, and English. And one lyrical multi-general text, The Diary of Wave Outside the Sea, is one of her writings, and she currently lives in Michigan. I chose one of her poems that resonated with, with what happened in Iraq and what's happening in other parts of, of the world right now that we see. The ending of it is a bit sarcastic, so I'm going to read it first in Arabic, and then we'll read it in English, if that's okay with everyone. So the name of the poem is The War Works Hard. الحرب تعمل بجد. كم هي مجدة الحرب ونشطة وبارعة. منذ الصباح الباكر توقظ صفارات الإنذار، تبعث سيارات إسعاف إلى مختلف الأماكن، تؤرجح جثثا في الهواء، تزحلق نقالات إلى الجرحى، تستدعي مطرا من عيون الأمهات، تحفر في التراب، تخرج أشياء كثيرة من تحت الأنقاض، أشياء جامدة وبراقة، وأخرى باهتة ما زالت تنبض. تأتي بالمزيد من الأسئلة إلى أذهان الأطفال، تسلي الآلهة بإطلاق صواريخ وألعاب نارية في السماء، تزرع الألغام في الحقول وتحصد ثقوبا وفقاعات، تدفع عوائلا إلى الهجرة، تقف مع رجال الدين وهم يشتمون الشياطين. المسكين يده ما زالت في النار تؤلمه، الحرب تواصل عملها صباح مساء، تلهم طغاة لإلقاء خطب طويلة، تمنح الجنرالات أوسمة والشعراء موضوعا للكتابة، تساهم في صناعة الأطراف والاصطناعات تساهم في صناعة الأطراف الاصطناعية، وتوفر طعاما للذباب، تضيف صفحات إلى كتب التاريخ، تحقق المساواة بين القاتل والقتيل، تعلم العشاق كتابة الرسائل، تدرب الفتيات على الانتظار، تملأ الجرائد بالمواضيع وبالصور، تشيد دورا جديدا لليتامى تشيد دورا جديدة لليتامى، تنشط صناعية التوابيت، تربت على أكتاف حفار القبور، ترسم ابتسامة على وجه القائد. إنها تعمل بجد لا مثيل له، ومع ذلك لا أحد يمتدحها بكلمة. So I'm going to read it in English now. The war works hard. The war, how serious and active and skillful it is. From early morning, it wakes up the sirens, sends ambulances everywhere, swings corpses in the air, slides stretchers to the wounded, summons rain from the eyes of mothers, digs in the earth, shovels many things from under the ruins, some lifeless, glittering things, others pale and still throbbing. It brings more inquiries to the minds of children, entertains the gods by shooting missiles and fireballs through the sky. It plants mines in the fields, harvests holes and air pockets, urges families to immigrate as they curse the devil. The worst one, his hand is still in the fire, it hurts. The war is relentless, day and night. It inspires tyrants to deliver long speeches, gives medals to generals, and themes to poets. It contributes to the industry of artificial limbs, provides food for flies, adds pages to the books of history, achieves equality between victims and murderer, teaches lovers to write letters, trains girls to wait, files newspaper with stories and photos, beats drums to celebrate every year, builds new houses for the orphans, keeps coffin makers very busy, pats the shoulders of grave diggers, draws a smile on the leader's face. The war works very hard without a president, yet nobody praises it. That's it. Thank you so much.
So this poem is about my grandfather who left China with his family in the 1950s. And it's titled 3 Bright Threads. This is what I was told happened. My great-grandfather was an intellectual, had worked for the previous government, wasn't politically reliable. He was arrested. The entire family was under suspicion. My grandfather dreams of Bodhisattva Kuan Yin, compassionate lady. America, she tells him. Take your family there for freedom, for safety. This is what I was told. My great-grandfather died in jail. The authorities would not release his body. Traveling together would excite suspicion, so my grandfather unwound the cord of his family into 3 bright threads. My mother was sent with friends to England, just a girl child, no matter. My grandmother and the other 2 girls went to Hong Kong to visit family, perfectly acceptable. My grandfather and my uncle went on a business trip to Germany. After all, A Chinese man must teach his son the family business. 6 years is not too old to start, or 6 years old is not too young to start. 3 bright threads unspooled across continents, oceans. 3 strands of hope gathered together at last in New York, the Empire State, not far from where the statue stands, the lady with the lamp, head bowed in pity, just like Kuan Yin. Bodhisattva, compassionate one, if my grandfather dreamed you now, what would you tell him? And then, if I can find it, I will read you one more. Okay, I'll have to search for it. There we go. And this poem is about my aunt who lives in Los Angeles and was fortunate not to be affected by the wildfires, but has endured, of course, a lot of heat waves. My aunt keeps cubes of frozen syrup for her hummingbird feeder. Because those tiny engines, a hummer's heart can weigh as little as 0.00875 ounces. That's a true fact, I looked it up. Heat up fast, can break from their own intensity. Put ice cubes in your feeder. Slow the little dynamos to a pace that sustains life. Save what you can, even if it's less than 1,000th of an ounce. You don't know how the scale will tilt when God puts his thumb on it. Thank you.
This is a poem I wrote a few years ago, but unfortunately, the poems about difficult times always remain relevant, it seems. The center does not hold. Cries from a generation we forget forged new metal in these months when the apocalypse seems within reach, not for horsemen and gnashing of teeth, but the sharp arguments of a union almost severed, doors slammed on raw fingers. Hope is a luxury, one said. Hope is an entitled person's word. The politics of language, color, gender, blood did run in the streets, riots, bullets, and the skies too were blood red, wildfires. We evacuated to the coast as if we could run far enough out to sea when the tides are rushing inward, higher. The ocean is higher. Common ground is sand under froth. Who will save us now? The hero and the heroine are looking for answers too. Despair is as dangerous as a virus. One day at a time, the old 12-steppers say. We sit in a circle of our undoing. We didn't know when to stop. We are all anonymous now. Still, I do not believe we will see the end.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Teal. Is there anyone who has not read a poem that wants to read a poem before we adjourn for the night? Well, I want to say thank you so much for being here. I always feel, every time we do this, that we got to keep doing this because of really how rich it is. So thank you, Bahar, for being here, for Masara, for inviting her. It was a real pleasure for me to spend a little bit of time with Bol Beausoleil. We have been trying to do that for some time. And I don't know if it was true for you, there's some of the things that he said that really stuck with me. We are the dirt under the grassroots. I just love that. And he called El Mutanabbi Street, some call it the third lung of Baghdad. And he had a way of capturing things, I thought. So it was great to have him. Thank you very much. Thank you for those of you that logged in on the live stream. Thanks to our tech people. You did a great job. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Our next reading is Judy Montgomery. She's going to be here a week from tonight, here, and also on live stream. So hope to see some of you then. Take care, everybody. Yeah.